Hey there, I'm Paula. Welcome to my channel if you've never been here before. Today, I want to share with you how I make a special keepsake for myself with air dry clay. I wanted to explain to you where this idea came from. In the past few months, I took up trekking and we go to the mountains, and there's this beautiful landscapes and nature. And last time we were up there, I wanted to take this single flower and bring it back to have at my desk, but it's kind of hard to have a single flower anywhere. If you put it in a glass, it's just like so tiny, it doesn't look nice. So I thought about making a special vase based container or something to keep my flower after the trip and to kind of keep leaving it a little bit longer, right? So today, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay, so as I said, I'm using air dry clay here and I have a brand new packet at home. The material is growing on me, so the other day I bought a couple of packets just to keep them at hand. And for today's project, I decided to display my little flower with a character holding it. And for that, I'm going to need a lot of clay because I want it to be big enough that you'll see it on my desk or on my shelf. I want this character to be bigger than the flower and on the chubby side. And because anything big takes a lot of time to dry with air dry clay, I'm using foil paper in the middle to speed it up. I crumbled the foil onto a ball to see if I can create my character, and that first ball was immediately too small. So I added more, and since I'm going to use this jar to hold the flower, I brought it in to see the proportions. And that ball still seemed to be too small, so more paper and make it larger. Now I had a size that I was happy with, so time to wrap it with my clay. I thought the amount of clay I had prepared wasn't going to be able to cover it, so I rolled out a little bit more. And today, the part of my rolling pin is being played by a bottle of paint that I had near. I really need to get a rolling tool for my clay projects instead of using whatever it's at hand. Now, covering the ball was easy. I just wrapped it around with the clay, and that first piece of clay left a smaller gap than what I thought, so that was great. I just had to cut a little bit of my extra clay and cover that up. And then came the smoothing of my piece, which actually did take a long time, but was super satisfying to do. I also changed the shape a bit from a circular one more to an ellipse or a flattened ball. I spent a good chunk of time doing this, but I finally felt happy with how it looked and decided to move on to making some details for the character. Now, if you've seen my channel before, you probably know I love panda bears by now, so that's what I'm making today. Also, I thought this bear was going to be a pretty simple thing to make and to practice my clay skills, which are still in development. The first thing I'm going to add are some stubby legs for my bear. I want to do this first to make sure it stands. So I modeled two flattened circles to act as legs. I was just going to press them together with the body, but then I remembered that simply does not work for this clay. So I took them out, polished my modeling, and attached them properly by scoring and wetting the clay. And I of course test if it stands, and it does, so I'm happy. Which was a short-lived happiness as it immediately falls. Celebrated a little bit too early, but it just took a little bit of tweaking to make sure it did stand after all. After that, I modeled the ears, again just flattened balls, and let me show you where my design is coming from. I drew a bunch of them to try to decide which I wanted to hold my flower, and these bottom two were my favorite. I really like the one that's sitting down too, but there's something about this chubby character I love. Okay, so for the ears, I made little indents with my tools to make them a little bit more interesting, and once I had those on, it looks like I have a frog. Doesn't this look like a frog? It's a frog. No, it's not a frog, it's a panda bear. And I can't decide on his name yet. I've been calling him different things through the process of creating him. So as soon as I post this video, I am going to post a poll on my community tab so you can help me choose his name out of the ones I've been calling him. And of course, if you have any suggestions, those are welcome too. Anyhow, the next step was to add the characteristic panda eye patches. I made those out of clay too and pushed some sockets for the eyes. At this point, I wasn't sure how I was going to finish the eyes, but I thought it looked cute to have them be dimensional instead of just painted on. When I was doing this, I noticed the joints for the ears aren't really well done, so I added some rolled clay and smoothed it out. I was really proud about doing this, and I felt like I am getting better with clay. He needed a little nose and of course his arms to hold the flower. At first, I was just gonna add two teardrop shaped pieces of clay for the arms, referencing my drawing. But then I realized that this is a 3D object and you're gonna be able to see the back. So I thought, okay, what do the backs of pandas look like? Google some images and yeah, the black goes around. It's almost like a little jacket they're wearing. So I changed my plan by surrounding him with a strip of clay and then merging the arms with it. With the arms in place, it was time for Bobby, I don't know, to hold his jar. And I was thinking I should model it in a way where you can take the jar off to clean or whatever. But I got so carried away with the modeling that I just left it there and never thought of a way to put it in and out. Oh well, you live, you learn. Last little detail, a little ball for its tail. Although previous research showed that their tail looks nothing like a little ball, it's okay, that's what I wanted. With that, I let the bear to dry with a little cardboard to support the weight of the jar that I was supposed to take out, so the arm didn't drop down while drying. A few days later, here's my panda all dried up, and it took way longer than I expected, so I actually went on my hiking trip before I finished it. But because I knew all I had to do is paint it, I did in fact pick a little flower to bring back with me. I just kept it in a glass of water in my fridge until I finished painting. It's such a cute flower. It was really nice to see it up there as it popped up on a landscape of greens and yellows. And now the veer is dry and it has some cracks, but I'm going to show you how I fixed those. All I used was this modeling paste that I use sometimes to create texture on my acrylic paintings. I just took a little bit of that and stuffed it in the cracks to smooth them out. There were a lot of little things to fix. While the modeling paste dried, I brought out some foam clay to create tiny little somethings that my bear could have in his jar on the days he isn't holding a flower. This was very challenging to do for me. I am not great at making tiny things. I don't have that finesse. But I finally managed to create a little star and a moon. I wanted a second star, but that was such a challenge, I decided to give myself a break and simply roll a tiny ball of clay to symbolize another celestial body. I then cut some wire from some paper clip because I needed the wire to suspend this little universe from the cork that closes the jar. I think it is a cute idea to have him hold this sometimes. Before letting it all dry, I just checked that it did fit back into the jar and I was done. Now it was time to paint my bear because the modeling paste was dry and ready. And I have to tell you, because I did went on my trekking trip before finishing the painting job, for a minute I thought instead of painting it like a panda, I would paint it like a spectacle bear, which is indigenous to the Paramo, which is the high part of the mountains we visited. But I decided to stick with the panda because that was my initial idea. So, yeah, that's what I did. And of course, painting a panda is not that hard because we only use two colors. The only challenging thing was to keep those straight edges clean and not to go over with the opposite color. So it's a simple painting job, but not necessarily fast because you need to be precise. When I reached the ears, I thought about making them fussy, but it just looked messy. So I went with the straight edge and I just had to fix that by going over with the white. Then I moved on to the arm that's holding the bottle, and that's when I remember I thought about making the bottle removable. Right about now would have been a great moment for that feature, but I left it to dry with the bottle in place, so now all of my paint was going onto the bottle and I had to continuously clean it to make things look a little neater. You can see through this little jar an area that's not painted at all, but well, we'll just pretend it was intended to look that way. I finished the arms, legs, and tail, which is supposed to be white, but I thought black looked cute. Maybe I should call him Spot because of that black tail that no other panda has. Time to do the white, and although the clay is sort of white, I wanted it to be painted, mainly to cover and correct all of the mistakes I made with the black. While the first layer of white paint dried, I made two little balls of clay which I glued into my panda's eyes. And now that I'm editing, I kind of like the full white eyes, just like the glue looks instead of the gray. So I may just go back to my panda today and paint those little balls white. Anyhow, I glued the little balls of clay in, and after that I went and gave the whole bear another layer of white paint. After everything looked even, I added some shinies to his eyes with the paint marker, as well as a little smile, a cute X for his butt, and some rosy cheeks. The paint could not dry fast enough. I literally couldn't wait to add water and put my flower in it. I was so happy and excited to do this that I forgot to varnish my bear. Here he is holding his little flower, and I'm going to have to wait until she's gone to varnish him. But that's okay. Let me know what you think about the eyes because maybe I'll change them before varnishing him. I love this project so much. It makes me really, really happy to see him. And I also filmed him without the flower for you so you can see what the tiny modeling looks like inside the jar. Thank you so much for coming along with me and watching this process. I can't wait to see what you think of this idea. And of course, if you have any ideas of other things you would like me to make out of clay, let me know. I would love to try. That's it from me today. I hope you're having the most wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.